At the church door, the black ex-maid pressed her hand against her chest. The groom was holding two babies. One of them reached out to her and said, "Mommy." What happened next shocked everyone. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Who invited her? Victoria's father whispered harshly, his eyes fixed on the back of St. Patrick's Cathedral. The wedding music stopped abruptly. 300 guests turned in their seats, following his gaze to the woman standing quietly by the entrance doors. She wore a simple blue dress, nothing like the designer outfits filling the pews. Maxwell Reynolds felt his heart stop. 5 feet away from him, halfway down the aisle, his bride Victoria Adams stood frozen in her $20,000 wedding gown. But Maxwell wasn't looking at her. His eyes locked with Jasmine Williams, the woman he had paid $5 million to stay out of his life. 6 hours earlier, Maxwell stood in a private room of the cathedral, adjusting his bow tie with shaking fingers. Outside, June sunlight streamed through New York City's most famous stained glass windows, illuminating preparations for what People magazine had already dubbed the wedding of the year. "Need help with that?" David Chen asked, appearing in the doorway. As Maxwell's college roommate, business partner, and best man, David was the only person who truly understood what today meant. "I got it," Maxwell said, his voice tight. "How's everything looking out there?" "Perfect. Every A-lister in Manhattan is fighting for the best seats. Victoria's choice of white roses everywhere was exactly right. Very elegant." Maxwell nodded. At 45 years old, after building Raintech Solutions into a tech empire worth billions, he was about to complete his life's most strategic merger. Victoria Adams, 26, came from old New York money. Beautiful, sophisticated, and socially connected, she was the perfect partner to elevate his public image. "You know," David said, checking his watch, "Victoria is the perfect match for you. Great for your image. The board loves her, the press loves her." "I know." Maxwell smoothed his custom tuxedo jacket. "That's why I proposed." David studied his friend. "Are you okay? You seem tense." "Just wedding nerves." Maxwell forced a smile. "Is Linda here yet?" "Your sister arrived 20 minutes ago. She seems—" David paused, quieter than usual. Maxwell frowned. His older sister Linda had made her disapproval of Victoria clear from the beginning. As long as she behaves today. In the main cathedral, guests continued arriving. Celebrities posed for photographers before security respectfully directed them inside. Tech executives shook hands with politicians. Diamond jewelry caught the light from every direction. At the back entrance, the wedding planner fussed over 18-month-old twins Emma and Ethan. The light-skinned toddlers wore matching white outfits with tiny blue flowers. "They look perfect," the planner said to Maxwell's assistant. "Remember, walk slowly so they can keep up. If they get fussy, just pick them up." Maxwell waited at the altar, scanning the crowd. Most guests assumed the twins were his children from a previous relationship, though he never publicly addressed their mother. The arrangement had worked perfectly for 6 months, since Jasmine had left. The music began. The twins toddled down the aisle, guided by Maxwell's assistant. Emma clutched a small basket of rose petals. Ethan carried a tiny pillow with fake rings attached. Guests murmured and smiled at their cuteness. "They're adorable," David whispered to Maxwell. "Doing great today." Maxwell nodded, his eyes following his children. He loved them fiercely, though he sometimes struggled to connect with them. The nannies often said they were mommy's babies, a phrase that always tightened something in his chest. As the twins reached the front, the wedding planner positioned them with their caretaker in the first row. The music shifted to a traditional bridal march. Guests stood and turned toward the entrance. Victoria appeared on her father's arm, radiant in her designer gown. Her blonde hair was arranged in an elegant updo, her makeup flawless. She began her walk down the aisle with practiced grace, smiling at important guests. That's when Maxwell noticed her. Jasmine Williams stood quietly near the entrance, partially hidden behind a column. She wore a simple blue dress, her curly hair pulled back in a style he remembered well. Maxwell felt the blood drain from his face. What was she doing here? Their arrangement had been clear. His eyes darted to the twins, who were fidgeting in the front row. Emma looked around restlessly until her gaze found Jasmine. Her small face transformed with joy. She broke free from her caretaker's grasp and pointed excitedly. "Mommy!" Emma shouted, her high voice echoing perfectly in the sudden silence of the cathedral. "Mommy!" Time stopped. Every head turned first toward Emma, then followed her pointing finger to Jasmine, then swiveled back to Maxwell. Victoria halted mid-stride. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock as she looked between Maxwell and Jasmine. Beside her, her father's face darkened with anger. Ethan, hearing his sister, turned and spotted Jasmine too. "Mama!" he called out, wriggling free and toddling toward the aisle. Whispers erupted throughout the cathedral. Phones appeared from purses and pockets as guests began recording. A prominent tech journalist in the third row was already typing rapidly on her phone. "What is happening?" Victoria hissed to her father, loud enough for the front rows to hear. Maxwell stood frozen, watching his carefully constructed world crumble. The twins were now both calling for Jasmine, who remained rooted in place, her face a mix of embarrassment and longing. "Max," David whispered urgently, "do something." Maxwell moved then, walking quickly to the twins. He picked them up, one in each arm, but they squirmed and reached toward Jasmine, crying, "Mommy!" repeatedly. Victoria's father quickly guided her to a side room, her beautiful gown swishing angrily against the marble floor. Security guards began approaching reporters, asking them to respect the family's privacy. Maxwell struggled to calm the twins, who were now crying in earnest, their small arms still reaching toward Jasmine. Guests began rising from their seats, some moving toward exits, others clustering to whisper and stare. "Perhaps we should—" the priest began, then fell silent, clearly at a loss. Linda Reynolds appeared beside Jasmine, taking her arm firmly. Maxwell watched as his sister leaned close to Jasmine's ear. "You need to stay," Linda said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I'm the one who sent you that invitation." It's time everyone knew the truth. Maxwell felt the twins' tears wetting his expensive tuxedo. Emma hiccuped against his shoulder, still whimpering, "Mommy," between sobs. The perfect cathedral, the perfect flowers, the perfect bride. None of it mattered now. The truth he had paid millions to hide was now the only thing everyone could see. "Sir," one of the security team approached, "the press is gathering outside. What would you like us to tell them?" Maxwell looked at his crying children, then at Jasmine still standing with Linda, then toward the room where Victoria had disappeared. For the first time in his meticulously planned life, Maxwell Reynolds had absolutely no idea what to do next. "Get everyone to the Saint. Joseph's room now," Maxwell ordered the security guard. "No statements to the press." The grand cathedral that had been prepared for a perfect wedding was now a scene of confusion. Guests whispered to each other and took videos with their phones while security guards directed reporters toward the exits. Maxwell struggled to hold the twins, who continued reaching toward Jasmine with tears streaming down their small faces. "David," Maxwell called to his best man. "Tell the guests there will be a delay." David nodded, his face serious. "What kind of delay should I mention?" "Just say, technical difficulties," Maxwell said, the words sounding ridiculous even to himself. Linda guided Jasmine forward, her hand firmly on the younger woman's arm. "The twins need their mother," she said quietly but firmly. "Let her hold them before they get more upset." Maxwell hesitated, then reluctantly transferred the crying children to Jasmine. Emma and Ethan immediately calmed in her arms, clutching her blue dress and burying their faces against her shoulders. I shouldn't be here, Jasmine whispered, kissing the tops of the twins' heads. I only came because of the note. I never meant to ruin your wedding. You didn't ruin anything, Linda said. This wedding was built on lies. It needed to stop. Maxwell stared at his sister. You had no right to interfere in my life. Let's continue this conversation privately, David suggested, glancing nervously at the guests who were watching the exchange with obvious interest. In the St. Joseph's room, a small wood-paneled space usually reserved for baptism preparations, Maxwell paced while Jasmine sat with the twins in her lap. Linda stood by the door, arms crossed. David checked his phone with increasing concern. Max, we have a problem, David said. Someone posted a video. The hashtag #WeddingTwins is already trending. I don't care about hashtags right now, Maxwell snapped. I want to know why my sister invited my former employee to my wedding without telling me. Former employee? Linda laughed without humor. Is that what we're calling the mother of your children? The door opened and Victoria burst in, her wedding dress rustling. Her father followed close behind, his face red with anger. What is going on? Victoria demanded. Her perfect makeup was now streaked with tears. Who is this woman? Why are your children calling her mommy? Maxwell opened his mouth, but no words came out. I'm Jasmine Williams, Jasmine said quietly, meeting Victoria's gaze. I worked as Maxwell's house manager in Seattle for 7 years. House manager, Victoria repeated, her voice sharp. And somehow you're also the mother of his children? When exactly were you planning to mention this, Maxwell? Maxwell straightened his shoulders. Victoria, I can explain everything. Please do, Victoria's father said coldly. Maxwell glanced at the twins, now playing contentedly with Jasmine's necklace. Perhaps the children should— No, Linda interrupted. No more hiding things. Tell the truth with everyone present. Maxwell took a deep breath. Jasmine and I had a relationship while she worked for me. When she became pregnant, we came to an arrangement. An arrangement? Victoria's voice rose. I offered financial compensation in exchange for— Maxwell paused, suddenly aware of how terrible the words would sound. In exchange for me giving him custody after the twins were born? Jasmine finished for him. $5 million to stay quiet and give up my children. Victoria gasped. You paid her to abandon her babies? And then you let me plan our wedding, talking about how I would adopt them? I thought it was best for everyone, Maxwell said weakly. Best for your image, you mean? Linda corrected. Best for the Raintech stock price. David's phone buzzed continuously. Speaking of stock price, he said grimly, we're down 6 points in after-hours trading. Victoria's father stepped forward. Victoria, we're leaving. This is beyond unacceptable. Wait, Victoria said, pulling off her diamond engagement ring. You let me believe I would be the only mother these children would know. You let me fall in love with them. She threw the ring at Maxwell's chest. You're a liar. The ring bounced off Maxwell's tuxedo and fell to the floor with a small clink. Victoria, please, Maxwell began, but she cut him off. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Or did you just not care? Her voice cracked. Were you ever going to tell me the truth? I was protecting my family, Maxwell said. By lying to everyone? Victoria laughed bitterly. Including the woman you asked to marry you? Jasmine stood up, holding the twins. I should go. This is between you two. No, Linda said firmly. This involves you too, Jasmine. She turned to Maxwell. Tell her why I invited her today. Maxwell shook his head. Linda, this isn't the time. I overheard Victoria discussing prenuptial agreement loopholes with her lawyer last month, Linda stated. She was specifically interested in how to gain access to your intellectual property rights at Raintech in case of divorce. Victoria's face flushed. That's a lie. I recorded the conversation, Linda said calmly. I was in the bathroom stall when you came in with your lawyer. You didn't know I was there. Victoria's father put his hand on his daughter's shoulder. We don't have to listen to these accusations. I started looking into things after that, Linda continued. I found Jasmine's contact information in Maxwell's personal files. When I spoke to her, I realized the twins needed their mother, and my brother needed to stop living a lie. David's phone rang again. Max, I need to take this. The board is calling an emergency meeting. As David stepped outside to take the call, Maxwell ran his hand through his hair in frustration. This is a disaster. You created this disaster, Victoria said coldly. You and your lies. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. My lawyer will contact yours about the emotional distress this has caused me. Don't try to contact me again. After Victoria and her father left, the room fell silent, except for the twins' soft babbling as they played with Jasmine's curly hair. What happens now? Jasmine asked quietly. Maxwell looked at his children, truly seeing how content they were with their mother. I don't know, he admitted. David returned, his face grim. The video is everywhere. Major news networks are running the story. The Reynolds wedding disaster is the top headline. I'm sorry, Jasmine said, looking down. I'll take the twins somewhere quiet while you handle this. Then we can talk about what's best for them. Maxwell nodded, suddenly exhausted. Use my car. The driver will take you to my apartment. David and I will manage the press and guests. As Jasmine prepared to leave with the twins, Linda handed her a business card. My number, she explained. Call me if you need anything. Don't disappear again. I never wanted to disappear, Jasmine said softly. I thought it was the right thing for the twins. Maxwell watched as Jasmine carried Emma and Ethan out through a side door, away from the cameras and curious eyes. The children went happily, occasionally reaching up to touch their mother's face as if making sure she was real. You've made a mess of everything, Linda told Maxwell when they were alone. I know, Maxwell admitted, but why did you have to expose it today, in front of everyone? Because you were about to marry a woman who wanted your company more than she wanted you, Linda replied, and your children needed their mother. Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies hurt more in the long run. Maxwell picked up Victoria's discarded engagement ring from the floor, staring at the massive diamond that had cost more than most people's homes. What do I do now? He asked, more to himself than to his sister. For once in your life, Linda said, maybe try being honest. With yourself, with Jasmine, and with your children. Maxwell stared at the engagement ring in his palm. The diamond caught the morning light streaming through his Seattle home office window, but its sparkle had faded for him. 3 weeks had passed since the wedding disaster, and the aftermath continued to unfold. He placed the ring in his desk drawer and closed it firmly. His phone buzzed with another news alert. Without looking, he knew it was about him. The Reynolds wedding scandal had dominated headlines for days, only now beginning to fade into the background of the news cycle. A child's wail echoed through the mansion's hallways. "Mommy! Want Mommy!" Emma's cries grew louder. Maxwell rubbed his temples and walked to his daughter's room. Emma stood in her crib, face red and wet with tears, tiny hands gripping the rails. "It's okay, Emma," Maxwell said softly, lifting her. "Daddy's here." Emma pushed against his chest. "No. Want Mommy?" Maxwell bounced her gently, walking in circles around the nursery. The pale pink walls and matching furniture, all chosen by an interior designer, suddenly seemed cold and impersonal. Mrs. Cooper, the newest nanny, appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Reynolds, I've tried everything. She's been crying for her mother all morning. And Ethan, finally napping, but he asked for his mommy 6 times before falling asleep." Maxwell nodded. "Thank you, Mrs. Cooper, I'll take Emma for a while." He carried his daughter to the large bay window overlooking Lake Washington. Usually the view calmed him. Today it just emphasized how empty the house felt despite its size. "Sir?" Mrs. Cooper hesitated at the door. "I don't mean to overstep, but this is the 3rd day Emma has refused her breakfast and cried for her mother." Maybe what? Maxwell's voice was sharper than he intended. Maybe she needs her mother, Mrs. Cooper said quietly. Maxwell didn't respond. After Mrs. Cooper left, he sat in the rocking chair, still holding Emma, who continued to whimper against his shoulder. "I know, sweetheart," he whispered. "I know you miss her." That evening, after putting both twins to bed, following another difficult dinner where Ethan threw his sippy cup and screamed for "Mommy!" Maxwell sat alone in his home office. 3 weeks of this, 3 weeks of tantrums, tears, and constant questions he couldn't answer. His phone rang. Linda's name appeared on the screen. "How are they?" his sister asked without greeting. "Terrible," Maxwell admitted. "They cry for Jasmine constantly. Nothing I do helps." "What did you expect, Max? They spent every day with her for 18 months. Then suddenly, she was gone." Maxwell leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Cooper just quit. That's the third nanny in 3 weeks. The great Maxwell Reynolds can't solve a problem by throwing money at it? Shocking." "I don't need your sarcasm right now, Linda." A moment of silence passed between them. "Have you talked to Jasmine since the wedding?" Linda finally asked. "No." "Why not?" Maxwell stared out the window at the darkening sky. "What would I say? Sorry I ruined your life, but could you come back and help me with the kids?" "That would be a start," Linda said. "The twins need her." "She probably hates me." "You won't know until you try." Maxwell closed his eyes. "Do you have her address in Philadelphia?" "She's staying with her sister Tanya. I'll text you the details." After hanging up, Maxwell paced his office for nearly an hour. Finally, he made a decision. The next morning, Maxwell's private jet landed in Philadelphia. His driver took him to a modest building with a sign reading Northeast Community Center. According to Linda, Jasmine worked here helping immigrant families. Maxwell straightened his tie before entering. Inside, the center bustled with activity. Children played in one corner while adults filled out forms at small tables. A young receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Jasmine Williams." The woman's eyes widened with recognition. "Oh, she's in room 3, helping with citizenship applications." Maxwell found room 3 and paused in the doorway. Jasmine sat at a table with an elderly couple, patiently explaining a form. Her curly hair was pulled back, and she wore a simple blouse and slacks. She looked up and froze when she saw him. "Mr. Diaz, Mrs. Diaz, please excuse me for a moment," she said to the couple before walking to the door. She led Maxwell to a small break room and closed the door. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was quiet but tense. "I needed to see you," Maxwell said. "You could have called first." "Would you have agreed to meet me?" Jasmine crossed her arms. "Probably not." Maxwell noticed dark circles under her eyes. "How are you? How do you think I am?" Jasmine shook her head. "I left my job, my home, and my children because you convinced me it was best for them. Then I showed up at your wedding and humiliated everyone. Now my face is all over the internet, so I'm not great, Maxwell." "The twins miss you," Maxwell said. "They cry for you every day." Jasmine's expression softened slightly. "How are they?" Maxwell pulled out his phone and showed her a recent photo. "They're healthy, but they're not happy. And that's why you're here? Because they're making your life difficult?" "That's not fair." "None of this has been fair," Jasmine replied. A colleague peeked into the break room. "Jasmine, there's a line forming for the afternoon session." "I'll be right there," she said. Turning back to Maxwell, "I need to get back to work." "Please," Maxwell said. "Just give me 5 minutes." Jasmine hesitated, then nodded to her colleague. "I'll take my break now." When they were alone again, Maxwell pulled out his phone. "The twins are with Mrs. Cooper. Can I video call them? They'd love to see you." Jasmine bit her lip, then nodded. The twins' faces appeared on screen, first confused, then lighting up with recognition when they saw Jasmine. "Mommy!" Emma squealed, her small hands reaching toward the phone. "Mama!" Ethan echoed, jumping up and down. "Hi, my babies," Jasmine said, her voice breaking. "I miss you so much." "Miss you, Mommy," Emma said. "Come home." Tears streamed down Jasmine's face as she talked to the twins for several minutes, asking about their toys and activities. When the call ended, she wiped her eyes. "I never should have agreed to leave them," she whispered. "I never should have asked you to," Maxwell admitted. "I thought I was protecting them, giving them stability. I was wrong." Jasmine looked directly at him. "What do you want from me, Maxwell?" "I want you to come back to Seattle, for the twins." "I can't just drop everything and—" "Please," Maxwell interrupted. "Not permanently, just visit. Let them see you. We can figure out a co-parenting arrangement." Jasmine considered his words. "No more money, no more arrangements. If I come back, it's for Emma and Ethan, not for you." "I understand. And I stay in the guest house, not the main house." Maxwell nodded. "Whatever you want." "I'll need a few days to arrange time off work," Jasmine said, standing. "I'll let you know when I can come." As she prepared to return to her clients, Maxwell asked, "Why did you agree to my original offer?" "You never fully explained." Jasmine paused at the door. "Because I believed a child raised with your resources would have opportunities I couldn't provide, and because I loved them enough to sacrifice my happiness for theirs." She met his gaze. "But I was wrong too. Children need love more than money." After Jasmine left, Maxwell sat alone in the break room. For the first time, he truly understood what his actions had cost, not just in dollars, but in the pain he'd caused the mother of his children. That evening, as his jet prepared for takeoff back to Seattle, Maxwell received a text from Jasmine. "I can come this weekend. For the twins." Maxwell replied, "Thank you. The guest house will be ready." He stared out the plane window as Philadelphia grew smaller below. In 3 days, Jasmine would be back in Seattle. The twins would have their mother again. And Maxwell would have to face the consequences of the choices he had made. The plane landed in Seattle 3 days later. Jasmine looked out the car window as rain fell lightly on the familiar streets. Her hands twisted nervously in her lap as the driver approached Maxwell's lakeside mansion. "Almost there, Ms. Williams," the driver said. Jasmine nodded. She had spent the flight preparing herself emotionally for seeing the twins again, and for facing Maxwell. What she hadn't prepared for was the news alert that flashed on her phone just as they pulled through the security gates. Breaking. Victoria Adams gives exclusive interview about Reynolds' wedding disaster. The car stopped at the front entrance. Before Jasmine could exit, the door opened. Maxwell stood there looking disheveled in a way she had rarely seen him. "You need to see this," he said without greeting, holding up a tablet. On screen, Victoria sat in a studio, perfectly composed in a cream-colored dress. The interviewer leaned forward with practiced concern. "He controlled everything," Victoria was saying. "Maxwell presented himself as this perfect man, but behind closed doors he manipulated everyone around him." "Including Jasmine Williams?" the interviewer asked. "Especially her." "That poor woman was his employee. He had all the power. Then he paid her to give up her children. What kind of person does that?" Jasmine stepped out of the car, ignoring the rain. "She's talking about me?" Maxwell nodded grimly. "It gets worse. Come inside." In Maxwell's living room, the interview continued playing on a large screen. David Chen paced nearby, phone pressed to his ear. "Did Maxwell Reynolds ever explain the business practices that concerned you?" the interviewer asked Victoria. Victoria dabbed at her eye with a tissue. "There were documents I saw accidentally. I'm not a business expert, but even I could tell something wasn't right with certain Raintech contracts. I was afraid to ask questions." "She's suggesting I committed fraud," Maxwell said, turning off the screen. "The company stock has dropped 12% since this morning." "Where are the twins?" Jasmine asked, looking around. "Upstairs with Mrs. Peterson. She's the new nanny. Fourth one this month." A squeal came from the staircase. "Mommy!" Emma and Ethan broke free from their nanny and raced down the stairs. Jasmine dropped to her knees, arms open wide. The twins crashed into her, their small bodies warm against hers. "My babies," Jasmine whispered, holding them tight. "I missed you so much." "Don't go away again," Ethan said, his face buried in her neck. "Stay, Mommy," Emma added, patting Jasmine's cheek. Jasmine looked up to see Maxwell watching them, his expression unreadable. David ended his call and approached. "The board wants an emergency meeting tomorrow," David told Maxwell. "They're concerned about Victoria's hints about corporate misconduct." "It's nonsense," Maxwell said. "She never saw any sensitive documents," David sighed. "Doesn't matter. The SEC has already called. We need to get ahead of this." "How?" Maxwell asked. "Give your own interview, tell your side." Maxwell shook his head. "I don't do personal interviews." "You might not have a choice," David replied. "The company is bleeding value by the hour." Jasmine stood up, holding a twin in each arm. "I should take them upstairs." "Let you handle this." "No," Maxwell said. "This involves you, too." The doorbell rang. On the security monitor, they saw a man in an expensive suit standing on the porch. "That's Richard Adams," Maxwell said. "Victoria's father." Mrs. Peterson took the twins reluctantly from Jasmine. As she led them upstairs, Emma looked back, her bottom lip trembling. "I'll be right here," Jasmine promised. "Mommy's not leaving." Maxwell opened the door to Richard Adams, who entered without waiting for an invitation. "This has gone far enough," Richard said, looking between Maxwell and Jasmine. "Victoria is very upset." "Victoria is lying on national television," Maxwell replied coldly. Richard waved his hand dismissively. "Everyone exaggerates for the cameras. The question is how we resolve this situation." "We?" David asked. "Victoria is prepared to stop giving interviews. No more mentions of questionable business practices. No more talking about your—" Richard glanced at Jasmine. "Complicated family situation." "In exchange for what?" Maxwell asked. $20 million. A fair settlement for her emotional distress." Maxwell laughed without humor. "You can't be serious." "Consider it carefully," Richard said. "Victoria has more interviews scheduled this week. The damage to your company could be substantial." After Richard left, Maxwell, David, and Jasmine gathered in the kitchen. The twins could be heard playing upstairs, their voices a gentle reminder of what was at stake. "We should consider it," David said quietly. $20 million is nothing compared to what Raintech could lose if this continues. "I'm not paying her to stop lying about me," Maxwell said firmly. Jasmine, who had been silent, finally spoke. "I could talk to the media." Both men turned to her in surprise. "What?" Maxwell asked. "I could tell my side of the story. The truth." David shook his head. "That's risky. No offense, but you have no media training." "I don't need training to tell the truth," Jasmine said. "People will believe me because I'll be honest about everything, the good and the bad." "You do that?" Maxwell asked. "After everything?" "Not for you," Jasmine clarified. "For Emma and Ethan. They deserve a father who isn't destroyed by scandal, and I won't let Victoria use my children as bargaining chips." Later that evening, Jasmine settled into the guest house. The small building beside the main house had its own kitchen and living area. Through the windows, she could see Maxwell's office light still on. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister Tanya. "Saw Victoria's interview. You okay?" Jasmine replied, "With the twins now. Complicated situation." The next morning, David arrived early with a media specialist named Rachel Grant. They sat around the dining table while the twins played nearby. "If we do this," Rachel said, "we need a unified message, a redemption story." "I'm not interested in crafting a story," Jasmine said firmly. "I'll tell the truth." Maxwell and I made mistakes, but we're trying to do what's best for our children now. The truth doesn't always play well on camera, Rachel warned. It will this time, Jasmine insisted. They agreed to an interview with a respected journalist who had covered the wedding disaster fairly. As preparations continued, Jasmine focused on rebuilding her connection with the twins. They followed her everywhere, their earlier tantrums replaced with happy chatter. Maxwell often paused in doorways, watching Jasmine read to the twins or help them with puzzles. She pretended not to notice, but felt his eyes on her. On Sunday, they decided to take the twins to a nearby park. It would be their first public outing as a family. "Are you sure about this?" Maxwell asked as they buckled the twins into their car seats. "They need fresh air and normal activities," Jasmine said. "We can't hide forever." The park was quiet when they arrived. Emma and Ethan ran to the swings, their excitement obvious. For half an hour, everything was peaceful. Maxwell pushed Ethan on a swing while Jasmine helped Emma climb a small slide. Then a man with a professional camera appeared from behind a tree. "Mr. Reynolds, Miss Williams? Comment on Victoria's accusations?" He moved closer, camera flashing repeatedly. Emma began to cry, frightened by the stranger and the flashing lights. Before Jasmine could react, Maxwell stepped between the photographer and the children. His body physically shielded them as he spoke in a low, dangerous voice. "Back away from my family." The photographer continued taking pictures. "The public has questions, and my children have the right to play in peace," Maxwell said, picking up a crying Emma. "Leave now." Something in Maxwell's tone made the man step back. Jasmine gathered Ethan, and they quickly returned to the car. Later that night, after the twins were asleep, David called. "Have you seen the photos?" he asked. "What photos?" Maxwell replied. "From the park. They're everywhere online. People are calling you Papa Bear Reynolds." Maxwell looked confused. "That's good?" "Very good," David confirmed. "For the first time, people are seeing you as a real father, not a billionaire with accessory children. The comments are overwhelmingly positive." After hanging up, Maxwell found Jasmine on the guest house porch. "The park photos are changing public opinion," he told her. Jasmine nodded. "Because they're real. For once, you weren't trying to control the situation or your image. You were just being a father." Maxwell sat beside her. "I've spent my life managing how people see me. I never realized how exhausting it was until now." "Maybe it's time to try something new," Jasmine suggested. "Just be yourself." "I'm not sure I know how anymore," Maxwell admitted. Jasmine looked toward the main house where the twins slept. "You'll learn. We both will." The morning light filtered through the guest house windows as Jasmine prepared breakfast for the twins. 3 days had passed since the park incident, and the photos of Maxwell protecting the children had indeed shifted public perception. As she sliced bananas for the twins' cereal, Jasmine heard a knock at the door. "It's open," she called. Maxwell entered, already dressed in a button-up shirt and slacks. "Rachel and the journalist will be here at 10 o'clock. Are you still sure about doing this interview?" Jasmine nodded. "Yes, but I'm going to speak honestly, Maxwell, about everything." "I know," he said, accepting the coffee she offered. "I'm trying to be okay with that." The twins burst into the kitchen, faces bright with morning energy. "Daddy!" Emma ran to Maxwell, arms raised to be picked up. He lifted her easily, smiling as she patted his cheeks with her small hands. It was a new development, the twins seeking Maxwell out instead of clinging exclusively to Jasmine. 3 days of seeing their parents together had created a shift in their little world. "Rachel texted," Maxwell said as they ate breakfast. She prepared some suggested answers for difficult questions. "I don't need a script," Jasmine replied. "These aren't scripts, just guidelines." Jasmine was about to respond when Maxwell's phone rang. His expression darkened as he answered. "What?" He stood abruptly. "When?" "I'll be right there." "What's wrong?" Jasmine asked after he hung up. Federal agents are at Raintech headquarters with a search warrant. Something about financial irregularities in our government contracts. Jasmine placed her fork down slowly. Is that what Victoria was hinting at in her interview? Yes, but there's nothing to find. Our contracts are clean. Maxwell ran a hand through his hair. I need to go there. Can you handle things here until I get back? Of course. But Maxwell, Jasmine hesitated. I've been thinking about Victoria's accusations. She mentioned seeing documents accidentally. Do you think she really found something? Or was she looking deliberately? Maxwell paused at the door. What do you mean? Did she ever have access to your home office? Or your passwords? Sometimes she stayed over, but I never showed her sensitive information. Jasmine bit her lip. What about your assistant? The new one you hired after I left? Kevin, what about him? About 6 months ago, before I left Seattle, I saw him in your office late one night. He was going through files on your computer. I assumed you had asked him to. Maxwell's expression hardened. I never authorized that. Did you mention this to anyone? I told Linda when she contacted me about the wedding. She asked if I'd noticed anything unusual before I left. Maxwell pulled out his phone again and dialed his sister. After a brief conversation, he turned back to Jasmine. Linda's going to check the security footage from my home office. She has remote access to the system. He hesitated, then added, Kevin was recommended by Victoria. She said he worked for one of her father's companies. Jasmine's eyes widened. You don't think... I don't know what to think anymore, but I need to get to Raintech. After Maxwell left, Jasmine focused on keeping the twins occupied. Rachel arrived early to prepare for the interview. We need to postpone, Jasmine told her. There's a situation at Maxwell's company. Rachel shook her head. Postponing now would look suspicious. The journalist is already on her way. Besides, this gives you a chance to address the allegations directly. An hour later, Maxwell returned, his face tight with stress. They're focusing on the Milton defense contract, he told David, who had arrived to support them. Someone gave them internal communications suggesting we falsified test results. That's impossible, David replied. We ran those tests ourselves. I know, but someone doctored the emails to make it look like we lied. The doorbell rang. Rachel went to greet the journalist, Ellen Parker, a respected reporter known for her fair coverage. Thank you for doing this, Ellen said as she sat up in the living room. I know it's been a difficult time for your family. The twins were upstairs with Mrs. Peterson, giving the adults privacy for the interview. Maxwell and Jasmine sat together on the couch, not touching but presenting a united front. Ellen started with gentle questions about how they met, how long Jasmine had worked for Maxwell, and when their relationship changed. Then she moved to more difficult territory. Jasmine, many people have questioned the power dynamic between you and Maxwell. As his employee, did you feel pressured into a relationship? Jasmine took a deep breath. Our relationship was complicated. Yes, Maxwell was my boss, and there was a power imbalance. But I made my own choices. When I became pregnant, Maxwell offered me money to give him custody of the twins. I accepted because I believed they would have better opportunities with him. That was my decision, even if it was a painful one. Do you regret it? Ellen asked. I regret leaving my children, Jasmine said honestly, but I don't regret having them. And I don't blame Maxwell entirely for our arrangement. We both made mistakes. Ellen turned to Maxwell. And you, Mr. Reynolds. What do you regret? Maxwell had intended to give the careful answer Rachel had prepared. Instead, looking at Jasmine, he found himself speaking from the heart. I regret treating Jasmine like she was a problem to solve instead of the mother of my children. I regret thinking I could control everything, my image, my company, my family, through careful management and financial arrangements. He paused. Most of all, I regret letting fear drive my decisions. Fear of what? Ellen asked, clearly surprised by his candor. Fear that I wasn't worthy of love without my wealth and status, Maxwell admitted. I've spent my life building walls to protect myself. In the process, I hurt the people closest to me. The interview continued for another hour. They discussed the wedding disaster, Victoria's accusations, and their current efforts to co-parent the twins. Throughout, both Maxwell and Jasmine spoke with an honesty that clearly impressed Ellen. As the crew packed up their equipment, Ellen approached them privately. "Thank you for your honesty," she said. "It's refreshing to interview people who aren't just reciting prepared statements." After she left, Maxwell received a call from Linda. "I found something," she said. "Multiple instances of Kevin accessing your private files at night. And I checked his employment history. He never worked for Richard Adams. His resume was fabricated." "Where is he now?" Maxwell asked. "No one's seen him since the federal agents arrived this morning." David, who had been listening, pulled out his laptop. "I've been digging into Victoria's background. Look at this." He showed them a photograph from 2 years earlier. Victoria at a charity event, standing next to the CEO of MaxCore Technologies, Raintech's biggest competitor. "They know each other," Maxwell said. "More than that," David replied. "I found emails between Kevin and Victoria dating back 14 months, long before you met her." Jasmine sat down heavily. "She planned this whole thing? Getting close to you, placing Kevin in your company?" "Corporate espionage," Maxwell said. "They wanted Raintech's technology. And when that didn't work fast enough, they tried to destroy your reputation and trigger a federal investigation," David added. Maxwell stood suddenly. "I need to call my attorneys. We have to get this information to the federal investigators immediately." While Maxwell and David worked in the office, Jasmine went upstairs to check on the twins. She found them napping peacefully, their small bodies curled toward each other as they always slept. The sight filled her with fierce love and protection. Mrs. Peterson smiled from her chair by the window. "They've been so much happier since you arrived," she said quietly. "Mr. Reynolds, too." "He seems different," Jasmine admitted. "He is different. Before, he was always distracted, checking his phone, rushing off to meetings. Now he reads them bedtime stories, builds block towers, really listens when they talk." Later that evening, after the twins were in bed, Maxwell found Jasmine in the kitchen preparing tea. "The FBI is investigating Victoria and Kevin now," he told her. "David found financial transactions linking them to MaxCore. The Raintech investigation has been redirected." "That's good news," Jasmine said, handing him a cup of tea. "I couldn't have done this without you," Maxwell said quietly. "Your honesty in the interview, your observation about Kevin, you saved my company." Jasmine shook her head. "I just told the truth. Something I'm still learning to do," Maxwell admitted. He looked at her thoughtfully. "Why did you really agree to that arrangement with me? $5 million is a lot of money, but not enough to give up your children." Jasmine stared into her tea for a long moment. "I told myself it was for their future. But the truth is more complicated." She met his eyes. "I loved you, Maxwell. And I thought that was all I could have of you. Those moments when you'd let your guard down, when it was just the three of us before the twins were born. I knew you'd never publicly acknowledge me as more than your employee, and I accepted that. Until I couldn't anymore." Maxwell reached across the table and took her hand. "I didn't know how to love someone without trying to control everything. I'm still learning." "We both are," Jasmine said softly. The moment between them lingered as they sat in the kitchen, hands still touching across the table. Maxwell was about to speak when his phone vibrated loudly against the counter. He reluctantly pulled his hand away to check it. "It's from my lawyer," he said, his expression changing as he read the message. "Victoria has filed for emergency custody of the twins." Jasmine's cup clattered against the saucer. "What? She can't do that. She's not their mother." "According to this, she's claiming she formed a maternal bond with them during our relationship. She's arguing that neither of us is fit to be their parent. Me because of my demanding career and you because—" He paused. "Because I abandoned them for money," Jasmine finished, her voice hollow. "There's a hearing scheduled for next week. The court has appointed someone called a guardian ad litem to evaluate what's best for the twins." Jasmine stood up abruptly. "I need to see the children." They walked upstairs together to the twins' bedroom. Emma and Ethan slept peacefully in their matching beds, unaware of the new storm gathering around them. "She won't win," Maxwell whispered firmly. "These are our children." "We need a lawyer," Jasmine said. "A good one." The next morning, they sat in the office of Sarah Goldstein, one of Seattle's top family law attorneys. The sleek downtown office offered stunning views of the city, but neither Maxwell nor Jasmine noticed as they explained their situation. "Let me be blunt," Sarah said, leaning forward in her chair. "Your history creates some challenges. The financial arrangement, Jasmine's departure, the public scandal, none of this looks good in family court." "But Victoria has no claim to the twins," Maxwell argued. "Legally, you're right. But family court is different from other courts. Judges have broad discretion to do what they believe is in the children's best interests." Sarah adjusted her glasses. "And many judges are conservative when it comes to unconventional family arrangements." "What can we do?" Jasmine asked. "First, you need to formalize your co-parenting relationship. Right now, what's your living arrangement?" "I'm in the guest house," Jasmine said. "Maxwell and the twins are in the main house." Sarah frowned. "That looks temporary, like you might leave again." "I'm not leaving," Jasmine said firmly. "The guardian ad litem, Ms. Patterson, will be evaluating your home life, your interactions with the twins, and your ability to provide a stable environment. She'll make recommendations to the judge." "When will she start?" Maxwell asked. "She called this morning. She'll be visiting your home tomorrow." On the drive home, Maxwell and Jasmine were quiet, each lost in thought. Finally, Jasmine broke the silence. "This is my fault. If I hadn't agreed to leave in the first place—" "No," Maxwell interrupted. "I pushed you away. I created this mess with my need to control everything." When they arrived home, Linda was waiting in the living room with the twins who were building a tower of blocks. "I came as soon as I heard," Linda said, hugging Jasmine. "Victoria has some nerve." "We just met with the lawyer," Maxwell explained, sitting on the floor next to the twins. "The guardian ad litem visits tomorrow." "Look, Daddy!" Ethan held up a red block. "Big tower!" Maxwell helped him place it on top. "Great job, buddy!" Linda watched them with approval. "You've changed, little brother. A month ago, you would have been too busy with work to sit and play." "A lot has changed," Maxwell said, glancing at Jasmine. The next afternoon, Miss Patterson arrived precisely at 2 o'clock. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. "I'll need to see the entire home," she explained, "and I'd like to observe your interactions with the children. Then I'll speak with each of you privately." For the next hour, they showed Miss Patterson around. She took detailed notes about the twins' bedroom, playroom, and the family spaces. She watched as Jasmine helped Emma wash her hands after a snack and as Maxwell read Ethan a story. "I notice you're staying in the guest house," Ms. Patterson said to Jasmine during their private conversation. "Is that a permanent arrangement?" "We're still figuring things out," Jasmine admitted. "Children need stability." "Your current setup suggests uncertainty." Later, Miss Patterson spoke with Maxwell in his office. "Your work schedule concerns me, Mr. Reynolds. How many hours per week do you typically work?" "Before, probably 60 or 70, but I've cut back significantly. Family comes first now." Miss Patterson made a note. "And this change is permanent?" "Yes," Maxwell said without hesitation. After Ms. Patterson left, Maxwell found Jasmine in the kitchen preparing dinner. "She's concerned about our living arrangement," he said, "and my work schedule. She asked me the same questions," Jasmine replied, chopping vegetables. She thinks our setup looks unstable. Maxwell hesitated. Maybe you should move into the main house. There's plenty of room. It would show we're committed to co-parenting. Before Jasmine could respond, David arrived with news. Victoria's lawyer contacted us. They want a meeting tomorrow. The next day, Maxwell and David met Victoria's attorney in downtown Seattle. Richard Adams was also present, sitting beside his daughter. Victoria wore a conservative outfit and kept her eyes downcast, playing the role of the heartbroken, almost mother. We have a proposal, her attorney began. Miss, Adams is willing to drop the custody petition under certain conditions. What conditions? Maxwell asked. First, a settlement of $25 million for emotional distress. Second, Raintech will not pursue any claims of corporate espionage against Ms. Adams or any associated parties. Maxwell leaned forward. You want me to pay her to drop a frivolous lawsuit and ignore the fact that she tried to steal my company's technology? Victoria finally looked up. Those children formed a bond with me. I was going to be their mother. You were going to be their stepmother, Maxwell corrected. For financial gain, apparently. Consider the children, Victoria's attorney urged. A custody battle will be public and messy. Is that what you want for them? Later that evening, Maxwell discussed the offer with Jasmine. $25 million is nothing if it protects the twins from a court battle, he said. Jasmine's eyes flashed with anger. So we let her win? Let her use our children as bargaining chips? I'm trying to be practical. The legal process could take months. And then what happens the next time she wants something? She'll always have this power over us. Jasmine shook her head firmly. No. We fight. As they debated, they heard the twins laughing upstairs. The sound reminded them of what was truly at stake. The next morning, Miss Patterson returned for a follow-up visit. She observed breakfast time, noting how the family interacted. When she asked to speak with the twins, Maxwell and Jasmine exchanged nervous glances, but agreed. Miss Patterson sat with Emma while Ethan played nearby with blocks. Emma, who takes care of you? Takes, she asked gently. Mommy and Daddy, Emma replied, coloring a picture. And who makes you feel safe? Emma looked up and pointed first to Jasmine, then to Maxwell. My mommy and daddy. When Miss Patterson left, Maxwell and Jasmine sat together on the living room couch. I've been thinking, Maxwell said. You were right. We should fight Victoria's custody claim. These are our children, and we're their parents. I'm glad you agree, Jasmine said. But Sarah is right too. Our current arrangement looks temporary and unstable. Maxwell took a deep breath. You should move into the main house. Not just for the custody case, but because it's better for the twins, and because I want you here. Are you sure? Jasmine asked. That's a big step. I'm sure, Maxwell said. We need to present a united front, for the courts, but more importantly, for our family. That evening, Maxwell helped Jasmine move her belongings from the guest house to a bedroom in the main house. As they carried boxes, Ethan and Emma followed excitedly. Mommy stay here? Ethan asked, hugging Jasmine's leg. Yes, baby. Mommy's staying here now. As they settled into their new arrangement, David called with news. Victoria's father contacted our attorneys again. He's increased the settlement demand to $30 million. Tell them no, Maxwell said firmly. We're done negotiating. After hanging up, he looked at Jasmine. I hope we're doing the right thing. We are, she assured him. The right thing isn't always the easiest path. That night, they had dinner together at the kitchen table for the first time as a family living under one roof. The twins babbled happily, secure in the presence of both parents. Maxwell watched Jasmine help Emma with her food, marveling at the natural way she cared for their children. Later, after the twins were asleep, Jasmine found Maxwell in his office, reviewing documents for the custody hearing. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For fighting for our family. The old Maxwell would have written a check to make the problem go away. Maxwell smiled. The old Maxwell was an idiot. As they prepared for bed, in separate rooms, Maxwell's phone chimed with an email. He frowned as he read it. "What is it?" Jasmine asked. "An anonymous email," Maxwell said, showing her his phone. "It contains recordings of Victoria discussing her plan to take Reynolds for everything he's worth." Jasmine listened to the audio clip, her eyes widening. "This could help our case enormously. Who sent it?" "I don't know," Maxwell replied. "The sender just identifies as a friend who knows the truth." Maxwell and Jasmine listened to the recordings again, huddled over his phone in the dimly lit office. Victoria's voice came through clearly. "Once I have access to his personal files, Max Corp will pay me double what Reynolds is worth," Victoria said in the recording. "The custody filing is just leverage. He'll pay anything to avoid bad publicity about his precious twins." "This is exactly what we need," Maxwell said, pausing the recording. "But how do we use it in court? We don't know who sent it or how they got it." Jasmine bit her lip. Sarah said evidence obtained illegally might not be admissible. "I'll call her now," Maxwell decided. After a brief conversation with their lawyer, Maxwell hung up with a frown. "Sarah says it's risky. Without knowing the source, the judge might throw it out. Worse, it could backfire on us." They went to bed troubled, each in their separate rooms. The custody hearing was just 2 days away, and while the recordings could save them, they might also destroy their case. The next morning, as Jasmine fed the twins breakfast, Maxwell's security team announced a visitor. "There's a young woman at the gate," the guard said over the intercom. "Charlotte Reynolds. Says she works for Victoria Adams." Maxwell and Jasmine exchanged alarmed looks. "Reynolds?" Jasmine asked. "Any relation?" "Not that I know of," Maxwell replied. "Let her in, but keep security nearby." Charlotte was a nervous-looking woman in her mid-20s with a professional outfit and a large purse clutched tightly. She sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. "I sent the recordings," she said without preamble. "I'm Victoria's personal assistant." Maxwell studied her carefully. "Why would you help us?" Charlotte pulled a small journal from her purse. "I've been documenting everything for months. Victoria hired me a year ago. At first, I was excited. Working for a prominent socialite seemed glamorous. But then I realized what she was really doing." "Which was what?" Jasmine asked. "Using Maxwell to access Raintech technology. She's been working with Max Corp the entire time." Charlotte opened her journal. "I have dates, times, conversations, all recorded here. She never suspected me because, well, assistants are invisible to people like her." "Why are you doing this?" Maxwell asked. "You're risking your career." Charlotte's expression hardened. 2 months ago, Victoria made me forge documents that were given to federal investigators. That's a crime. I never agreed to break the law." "These recordings," Jasmine said, "how did you get them?" "Victoria dictates everything into her phone, emails, plans, reminders. Her cloud account syncs to the office computer I manage. I didn't hack anything, I just accessed files I already had permission to use." Maxwell called Sarah immediately, putting her on speakerphone to hear Charlotte's story. After asking several legal questions, Sarah seemed satisfied. "If Charlotte testifies about how she obtained these recordings legally, they should be admissible. I'll prepare the necessary documents today." After Sarah hung up, Maxwell asked, "Are you willing to testify, Charlotte?" "Victoria will know it was you." Charlotte nodded. "I've already started looking for another job. I can't work for her anymore." As they prepared Charlotte for what to expect in court, 2 federal agents arrived at the house. They had more questions about Raintech's government contracts. "I want to cooperate fully," Maxwell told them in his home office. "Here are my passwords and access codes for all company systems. You'll find everything exactly as it should be." One agent, a woman named Agent Garcia, seemed surprised by his openness. "Most executives lawyer up and stonewall us, Mr. Reynolds." "I have nothing to hide," Maxwell replied. "The accusations against Raintech are false. created by people trying to damage my company. While Maxwell spoke with the agents, Jasmine took Charlotte to the kitchen for coffee. The twins were having a play date with David's children, supervised by Mrs. Peterson. "Were you there?" Jasmine asked quietly. "At the wedding?" Charlotte nodded. "In the background. Assistants are always there, managing details. I saw everything." "Why didn't Victoria suspect you?" "People like Victoria don't really see people like me," Charlotte said simply. "I'm just someone who brings coffee and schedules appointments." Later that afternoon, David arrived with news. "Victoria appeared on business today," he said, showing them a video on his tablet. "She's positioning herself as concerned about Raintech's stability and the welfare of the twins." On screen, Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "I only want what's best for those precious children. They've been through so much instability." Maxwell turned off the video in disgust. "She's playing the concerned almost mother perfectly." "Public opinion is still on your side after Ellen's interview," David assured them. "People responded to your honesty." That evening, after reviewing court strategies with Sarah over video call, Maxwell and Jasmine found themselves alone in the kitchen. The twins were asleep, the house quiet for the first time all day. "Are you nervous about tomorrow?" Jasmine asked, making tea. "Terrified," Maxwell admitted. "For the first time in my life, I can't control the outcome with money or power." "That might be good for you," Jasmine said with a small smile. "Probably," Maxwell agreed. "I'm learning that the things I can't buy or control are the most valuable." They sat at the kitchen island, going through their notes for court one last time. Maxwell noticed Jasmine's hands trembling slightly as she turned a page. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I keep thinking about what would happen if we lost," she whispered. "I can't lose them again, Maxwell. I won't survive it." Maxwell reached across the counter and took her hand. "We won't lose. They're our children, not hers." Jasmine looked at their joined hands. "I've been thinking about what Emma said to Ms. Patterson, that both of us make her feel safe. That's all I've ever wanted for them." "You're an amazing mother," Maxwell said. "I wish I'd appreciated that sooner." "You're becoming a good father," Jasmine replied. "The twins adore you now." Maxwell smiled. "Remember yesterday when Emma took her first steps toward me? I've never felt anything like that moment." "Or when Ethan fell asleep on your chest during movie night," Jasmine added. "He's never done that with anyone but me before." They talked for hours, sharing memories of the twins' milestones and the small moments that had defined their time as parents. Some were painful. The day Jasmine left, the first words she missed, the birthdays celebrated separately. Others were joyful. The twins' first steps, first words, the way they laughed together. As the clock showed midnight, Jasmine yawned. "We should sleep. Big day tomorrow." Maxwell nodded but didn't move. "Jasmine, whatever happens in court, thank you for giving me another chance with the twins. And with you." She looked at him for a long moment, then stood and walked around the island to where he sat. Without a word, she leaned down and kissed him gently. Maxwell froze in surprise, then responded, his hand coming up to touch her cheek. When they pulled apart, both seemed startled by what had happened. Jasmine began. "We should," Maxwell said at the same time. They both laughed, breaking the tension. "Let's focus on the hearing first," Jasmine said softly. "We have a lot at stake tomorrow." "You're right," Maxwell agreed, "but when this is over, we should talk. About us." "Yes," Jasmine said, her eyes meeting his. "We should." The next morning, they dressed carefully for court. Maxwell wore a conservative suit, not his usual expensive designer wear. Jasmine chose a simple blue dress, professional but maternal. The twins clung to them during breakfast, sensing something important was happening. "We'll be back soon," Jasmine promised, kissing their foreheads. "Mrs. Peterson will stay with you." "Be good for Mrs. Peterson," Maxwell added, hugging them tightly. Linda arrived to provide moral support. "Charlotte is already at the courthouse with Sarah," she reported. "Everything's ready." As they prepared to leave, Maxwell's phone rang. David's name flashed on the screen. "Victoria's lawyer called," David said when Maxwell answered. "They've doubled their settlement offer. $60 million if you drop all corporate espionage claims and give Victoria visitation rights with the twins." Maxwell put the phone on speaker so Jasmine could hear. "Tell them no," Jasmine said firmly. "No amount of money buys access to our children." Maxwell nodded in agreement. "David, inform them we'll see them in court." They drove to the courthouse in silence, both lost in thought. As they approached the imposing building, Maxwell reached for Jasmine's hand. "Together?" he asked. "Together," she confirmed, squeezing his hand. They walked up the courthouse steps side by side, a united front facing whatever came next. The courtroom doors opened, revealing a space already half filled with reporters and curious onlookers. Victoria sat at the plaintiff's table, wearing a modest navy dress, her blonde hair pulled back in a simple style that made her look both younger and more serious. Her father sat behind her, whispering to her attorney. Sarah Goldstein guided Maxwell and Jasmine to the defendant's table. "Remember," she whispered, "stay calm no matter what happens. This judge doesn't like emotional displays." Judge Eleanor Winters, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, entered the courtroom. After the formal opening of proceedings, Victoria's attorney James Wilson approached the podium. "Your Honor, Ms. Adams developed a deep maternal bond with these children during her relationship with Mr. Reynolds. She was preparing to become their legal mother through adoption after marriage when the relationship was abruptly terminated." As Wilson spoke, he displayed photographs on a screen. Victoria reading to the twins, Victoria at their doctor's appointment, Victoria pushing them on swings. "These children know Miss Adams as a mother figure," Wilson continued. "Meanwhile, their biological mother abandoned them for money, and their father is too busy with his corporate empire to provide the stable presence they need." Maxwell clenched his jaw but remained silent as instructed. Jasmine stared straight ahead, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Victoria took the stand next, her voice soft and emotional. "I loved those children from the moment I met them," she said, dabbing at her eyes. "They called me Vicky and would run to me when I arrived. I attended every pediatrician visit, knew their favorite foods, their bedtime routines." Sarah cross-examined Victoria skillfully, highlighting inconsistencies in her testimony. "Miss Adams, you claim deep knowledge of the twins' daily care, yet the nanny logs show you spent an average of just 4 hours per week with them during your relationship with Mr. Reynolds. Is that correct?" Victoria shifted uncomfortably. Quality matters more than quantity. When Charlotte took the stand, she appeared nervous but determined. Victoria's face hardened as she realized who would be testifying. "I worked as Miss Adams's personal assistant for 12 months, Charlotte stated. "During that time, I witnessed and documented her true intentions regarding Mr. Reynolds and the twins." Charlotte described conversations where Victoria explicitly discussed using the children as leverage for financial gain. She presented her journal entries with dates and quotes, and explained how she legally obtained the audio recordings. On these recordings, played for the court, Victoria could be heard saying, "The twins are my ticket to the big payday. Reynolds will pay anything to keep his perfect daddy image intact." Victoria's attorney objected repeatedly, but Judge Winters allowed the evidence, stating, "These recordings were made or accessed by Ms. Adams' own employee in the normal course of her duties." During a brief recess, Sarah seemed encouraged. "The judge is clearly troubled by Victoria's motives," she told Maxwell and Jasmine in a private conference room. "But we're not out of the woods yet." "Maxwell, you're up next." When court resumed, Maxwell took the stand. He spoke honestly about his relationship with Jasmine, the financial arrangement, and his evolving understanding of fatherhood. "I thought I was doing what was best for the twins," he explained. "I believed my resources could provide them with opportunities and stability. I was wrong to think money could replace their mother's presence. Victoria's attorney approached for cross-examination with a folder in hand. Mr. Reynolds, you've presented yourself as the twins' biological father. Is that correct? Yes, they are my children, Maxwell stated firmly. Wilson opened the folder dramatically. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence medical records from Seattle Medical Center dated 5 years before the twins' conception, showing that Mr. Reynolds underwent a vasectomy procedure. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Sarah stood immediately. Objection! These records were obtained without my client's consent. They were subpoenaed legally, Your Honor, Wilson countered. The judge examined the documents. I'll allow it. Mr. Reynolds, please answer the question. Maxwell's face had gone pale. Yes, I had a vasectomy. Then how can you claim to be the biological father of these children? Wilson asked triumphantly. Jasmine stared at Maxwell, shock evident on her face. Sarah quickly requested a recess, which the judge granted. In the conference room, Jasmine confronted Maxwell. You had a vasectomy? All this time you never told me? The twins are mine, Maxwell insisted. Biologically mine. How is that possible? Sarah demanded. Maxwell ran a hand through his hair. Before the procedure, I had my sperm frozen. It's a standard precaution. And you never thought to mention this? Jasmine's voice rose. What other secrets are you keeping? I didn't think it mattered, Maxwell said. The twins are mine. That's the truth. It matters because you're still hiding things from me, Jasmine said, tears forming. Even now, when everything is at stake, you're not being completely honest. Sarah interrupted their argument. We need to address this immediately in court. Otherwise, it looks like you've been lying. When court resumed, Maxwell explained about the frozen sperm. The judge seemed satisfied with the medical explanation, but troubled by the revelation. Victoria's attorney seized on the moment. Mr. Reynolds has demonstrated yet again his pattern of deception and manipulation. What kind of environment is this for children? When Jasmine took the stand, she was still visibly upset, but she spoke with conviction about her love for her children. I made a terrible mistake when I agreed to leave them, she admitted. I've regretted it every day since, but I'm here now, and I will never leave them again. During cross-examination, Wilson was relentless. Miss Williams, did you know about Mr. Reynolds' vasectomy when you became pregnant? No, Jasmine answered honestly. I didn't. So he concealed this from you too, Wilson pressed, just as he concealed your existence from Miss Adams. Don't you find Mr. Reynolds' pattern of secrecy troubling? Before Jasmine could answer, Sarah objected, and the judge sustained. The court recessed for lunch. In a small office away from reporters, Maxwell finally explained everything to Jasmine. I had the vasectomy after a relationship ended badly when I was 35, he said. She claimed to be pregnant, then admitted she was lying to get money from me. After that, I protected myself, but I always knew I might want children someday, so I preserved the option. Why didn't you tell me? Jasmine asked, when we decided to have the twins. Because I didn't want it to seem clinical or planned, Maxwell admitted, and I didn't want to talk about why I'd had the procedure. It wasn't my proudest moment. So we went to the fertility clinic under false pretenses. You let me believe it happened naturally at first, then that there might be something wrong with me when it didn't. I'm sorry, Maxwell said. I should have been honest from the beginning. Jasmine looked at him for a long moment. Our entire relationship has been built on half-truths and omissions. Even now, when we're fighting for our children, you're still hiding things. Not anymore, Maxwell promised. Ask me anything. I'll tell you everything. Did you ever really love me? Jasmine asked quietly. Or was I just convenient? Your house manager who you could trust to be discreet. Maxwell reached for her hand. I didn't know how to love someone without controlling the situation. But yes, I loved you. I still do. That's the truth I've been most afraid to admit, to you and to myself. Before Jasmine could respond, Sarah entered. "They're calling us back. Victoria's attorney has approached me about a settlement." "What kind of settlement?" Maxwell asked. "Victoria will drop the custody petition in exchange for $40 million and a non-disclosure agreement about the corporate espionage evidence." Sarah looked between them. "Given the judge's reaction to the vasectomy revelation, we might want to consider it." "No," Jasmine said firmly. "No more secrets, no more paying people to go away. We tell the truth and let the judge decide." "I agree," Maxwell said, surprising both women. "We've spent too long hiding things. It ends now." When court resumed, Victoria's father approached their table. "This is your last chance," he whispered. $40 million, and this all goes away." "No deal," Maxwell replied. As the afternoon proceeded, Miss Patterson, the guardian ad litem, testified about her observations of the twins with both Maxwell and Jasmine. "The children are clearly bonded to both biological parents," she stated. "They appear secure, happy, and well-adjusted in their care. I saw no evidence that Miss Adams played a significant maternal role in their lives." The judge listened carefully to all testimony before addressing the courtroom. "Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, I find Ms. Adams's petition for custody without merit. The children belong with their biological parents, who have demonstrated commitment to co-parenting despite their complicated history. The petition is dismissed." She turned to Victoria. "Miss Adams, I am also issuing a restraining order prohibiting you from contacting the Reynolds family. The evidence of your intentions troubles this court deeply." As they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed around them. Maxwell put his arm around Jasmine protectively as they pushed through to their waiting car. "We won," Sarah said once they were inside. "Completely." "Thank you," Maxwell told her, relief evident in his voice. The drive home was quiet. They had won the case, but the revelations of the day hung between them. As they pulled through the gates of Maxwell's estate, Jasmine finally spoke. "We need to talk. About everything. No more secrets." "I know," Maxwell said, looking at her directly. "I'm ready if you are." Jasmine nodded slowly. "Let's check on the twins first. Then we'll talk." They entered the house together, victorious in court but facing a different challenge now, building something real from a foundation that had been anything but honest. The twins rushed to the door when they heard it open, their faces bright with excitement. "Mommy! Daddy!" Emma called, reaching up with her small arms. Maxwell lifted her while Jasmine picked up Ethan. For a moment, their legal victory made everything else fade away. They were home with their children safe. "Did you have fun with Mrs. Peterson?" Jasmine asked, kissing Ethan's cheek. "We make cookies," Ethan announced proudly. Mrs. Peterson emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "They were wonderful helpers. How did everything go?" "We won," Maxwell said simply. "Victoria's petition was dismissed, and the judge granted a restraining order against her." Linda arrived shortly after, bringing sparkling apple cider to celebrate. They toasted their victory in the living room while the twins played with blocks nearby. "To family," Linda said, raising her glass. "To truth," Jasmine added quietly, her eyes meeting Maxwell's. The celebration was brief. After Linda left and the twins were fed dinner, the underlying tension returned. Maxwell and Jasmine moved around each other carefully, speaking mostly about the children. Later, after bath time and bedtime stories, the twins finally fell asleep. Maxwell and Jasmine stood in the hallway outside the children's room. "We should talk now," Jasmine said. They went to the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. For a moment, neither spoke. "I don't know where to start," Maxwell finally said. "Why don't you start with why you keep secrets?" Jasmine suggested. "Not just the vasectomy, but everything. Why is openness so hard for you?" Maxwell took a deep breath. "My father lost everything when I was 12 years old. My mother divorced him and took him for every penny. He wasn't a perfect man, but he loved her completely. He trusted her with everything. "What happened?" Jasmine asked. He had built a small manufacturing company. Not huge, but successful. My mother was only interested in his money. When she found someone wealthier, she left, but not before getting half the company in the divorce. Dad had to sell his remaining share to pay her settlement. He went from business owner to night security guard in 6 months. Maxwell stared at his hands. He told me on his deathbed, "Never let anyone see everything you have or everything you are. They'll use it against you." "That's a terrible lesson to learn as a child," Jasmine said softly. "It worked, though. I built Raintech from nothing, and no one has ever taken it from me because I never fully trusted anyone." Maxwell looked up at her. "Until you. And even then I couldn't do it completely." "And now?" Jasmine asked. "Now I realize control isn't the same as security. I've spent my life trying to prevent what happened to my father, but I've ended up alone. Even with the twins, I kept a distance." "You're not alone anymore," Jasmine said. "But I need honesty, Maxwell. Complete honesty." "I want to try," he said. "I really do. Trying isn't enough. Our children deserve parents who trust each other." Maxwell nodded slowly. "I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, anything." "Both," Jasmine said firmly. "Individual therapy for you and co-parenting counseling for us together." The next morning, Maxwell called a therapist recommended by Sarah. He scheduled his first appointment for that week. He and Jasmine also found a family counselor specializing in co-parenting. Maxwell's first therapy session was uncomfortable. Dr. Allen, a calm, middle-aged man with kind eyes, asked questions Maxwell had never considered. "When was the last time you were completely honest with someone about your feelings?" "Doctor?" Allen asked. Maxwell shifted in his chair. "I'm not sure I ever have been." "That's what we'll work on, Doctor," Allen said, "starting with being honest with yourself." Meanwhile, the federal investigation into Raintech concluded. The evidence Charlotte provided helped authorities build a strong case against Victoria and several MaxCore executives. Raintech received minor penalties for document storage violations, but Maxwell personally was cleared of wrongdoing. "The board is impressed with how you handled everything," David told Maxwell over lunch at a quiet restaurant near Raintech headquarters. "The company has actually gained respect in the industry for transparency during the investigation." "I've been thinking about the future," Maxwell said. "I want to step back from daily operations." David put down his fork in surprise. "What?" "I want you to take over as CEO. I'll remain on the board, but I need more time with my family." "Are you sure?" David asked. "Raintech has been your life for 20 years. "That's the problem," Maxwell said. "It's been my whole life. I don't want that anymore." That evening, Maxwell discussed his decision with Jasmine. "I think it's a good idea," she said. "The twins need you present, not just physically, but emotionally." "What about you?" Maxwell asked. "What do you want for your future?" Jasmine hesitated. "I've been thinking about finishing my business degree. I was only 2 semesters away when I left college to help my family." "You should do it," Maxwell encouraged. "You'd be amazing." The next week, Jasmine visited Seattle Community College to register for classes. As she walked through the campus, she felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. It had been so long since she'd thought about her own goals. At home, they established new routines. Sunday mornings became pancake breakfast time, with the twins helping to mix batter. Wednesday evenings were movie nights, with everyone in pajamas watching animated films. Maxwell scheduled his work calls around the twins' nap times and was always home for dinner. Their co-parenting counseling sessions helped them develop better communication skills. Dr. Rivera, their counselor, gave them exercises to practice active listening and expressing needs clearly. "You're both doing well, Doctor," Rivera told them during their 4th session. "I can see significant progress in how you communicate." Slowly, the tension between them began to ease. They worked together as parents, consulting each other on decisions about the twins. Maxwell kept his promises, sharing his therapy insights with Jasmine. "Dr. Allen says I use work to avoid emotional vulnerability," he told her one evening after the twins were asleep. "He's right. It was easier to focus on rain tech than to admit I might fail at relationships." "We all fail sometimes," Jasmine said. "The important thing is to keep trying." 3 weeks after the custody hearing, Emma woke in the middle of the night with a high fever. Her small body felt hot to the touch and she cried weakly, unable to explain what hurt. 103 degrees, Jasmine said, looking at the thermometer with worry. "We need to take her to the emergency room." They moved with quick efficiency. Maxwell grabbed Emma's favorite stuffed rabbit while Jasmine packed a small bag with essentials. Ethan remained asleep with Mrs. Peterson staying to watch him. At the hospital, Emma's fever continued to rise despite medication. The pediatrician ordered tests, concerned about possible infection. "We need to do a spinal tap to rule out meningitis," the doctor explained. Jasmine's face paled, but she nodded. "Whatever she needs." Throughout the night, Maxwell and Jasmine took turns holding Emma during procedures, comforting her, and speaking with medical staff. They passed information to each other seamlessly, supporting one another without question. When morning came, the test results finally provided answers. Emma had a severe ear infection that had spread but not meningitis. With proper antibiotics, she would recover completely. "You two make an excellent team," the pediatrician commented as she wrote discharge instructions. "Emma is lucky to have such attentive parents." As they drove home with a sleeping Emma in her car seat, Maxwell glanced at Jasmine. Her face showed exhaustion, with dark circles under her eyes, yet to him she had never looked more beautiful. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" Jasmine asked. "For being there. For knowing exactly what Emma needed. For being the mother our children deserve." Jasmine smiled tiredly. "We did it together." Later that day, as Emma rested in her bed, Maxwell found Jasmine asleep in the armchair beside her. She had refused to leave Emma's side, even after they returned home. Maxwell gently placed a blanket over her, then sat on the floor next to the chair, watching them both. In that quiet moment, with sunlight streaming through the curtains, Maxwell finally understood what he truly wanted. Not control, not corporate success, not even the perfect public image he had chased for so long. He wanted this, his family, together, safe. He wanted mornings with pancake batter on the counter and evenings with children's movies. He wanted to face challenges like Emma's fever as a team, not alone. Most of all, he wanted Jasmine, not as an arrangement or a co-parent, but as his partner in all things. The realization settled in his heart with surprising certainty. Now he just needed to find the right way to tell her. 6 months passed like gentle seasons, each day adding another layer to the foundation Maxwell and Jasmine were building. Spring had turned to summer, and then to fall, bringing changes to their family with each passing month. On a crisp October morning, Maxwell stood in the kitchen reviewing blueprints spread across the counter. The plans showed a spacious but not extravagant house in Connecticut, with a large yard and bedrooms for each of the twins. "What do you think about these colors for the living room?" Jasmine asked, showing him paint samples. "The light blue might work with the natural light from those big windows." "I like it," Maxwell agreed. "The twins will have plenty of space to play." From the living room came the sound of Emma and Ethan chattering as they packed their favorite toys into small boxes. At 2 years old, they were excited about the upcoming move, mostly because they'd been promised a swing set in their new yard. "My trucks go here," Ethan announced, carefully placing a red fire engine in a cardboard box. "My books too," Emma added, struggling with a stack of picture books almost as tall as she was. The television in the background suddenly caught Maxwell's attention. A news anchor was speaking seriously into the camera. "Breaking news! Victoria Adams and 3 executives from MaxCore Technologies have been indicted on federal charges of corporate espionage and wire fraud." The indictment alleges they conspired to steal proprietary technology from Raintech Solutions. Maxwell grabbed the remote and turned up the volume. Jasmine moved to stand beside him as they watched footage of Victoria being escorted into a federal building, her face partially covered by large sunglasses. "They did it," Maxwell said quietly. "The case actually went through." "Will you have to testify?" Jasmine asked. "Probably. David's been handling most of the legal work, but they'll want me for the trial." Jasmine frowned. "This will bring everything back into the spotlight just when things have settled down." The twins ran into the kitchen, oblivious to the news. "Daddy, look!" Emma held up a crayon drawing. "Our new house." Maxwell crouched down to examine the colorful scribbles. "This is beautiful, Emma. Is that all of us in front?" "Yes. You and Mommy and me and Ethan and our doggy." "We don't have a dog," Maxwell reminded her gently. Emma gave him a serious look. "In the new house we will." Maxwell laughed, glancing up at Jasmine. "Apparently we're getting a dog, too." Later that day, David called to discuss the indictments and the inevitable media attention. "We need to get ahead of this," David advised. "Every reporter in the country will be calling for comments." "What do you suggest?" Maxwell asked, his phone on speaker as he and Jasmine listened. "One exclusive interview with someone respected. Ellen Parker did a fair job last time. She's been requesting a follow-up for months." After discussing it with Jasmine, they agreed to Ellen's interview, but with conditions. It would be in their home, with minimal crew, and they would have approval over which footage could be used. The next day, as they prepared for the interview, Maxwell seemed distracted. "Is everything okay?" Jasmine asked as they dressed in the bedroom they now shared. Their relationship had evolved gradually over the past months, moving from separate rooms to together, from co-parents to partners. "Everything's fine," Maxwell said. "Just thinking about something. Actually, can we stop somewhere before the interview? There's a place I want to show you." An hour later, their car pulled up to Discovery Park, overlooking Puget Sound. The October sky was clear, unusual for Seattle this time of year. "Why are we here?" Jasmine asked as they walked along a tree-lined path. "This is where we first talked about having children," Maxwell explained. "Do you remember? We were walking here after that charity event. You pointed to a family with little kids running around and said something about them looking happy." Jasmine smiled at the memory. "And you surprised me by saying you'd thought about having children someday. It was the first personal thing you ever shared with me." They reached a lookout point with a view of the water. Maxwell stopped, turning to face Jasmine. "This is also where I first realized I had feelings for you," he said quietly, "but I didn't know how to handle it. I thought emotions were dangerous, relationships were transactions, and everything could be managed with the right agreement." He took her hands in his. "I was wrong about everything important. It took almost losing you and the twins to understand what really matters." Maxwell reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring with a deep blue sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. "This was my grandmother's," he explained. "Not as flashy as the one I gave Victoria, but much more meaningful." Jasmine's eyes widened. "Maxwell, I don't want arrangements or agreements anymore," he said. "I want a real marriage, built on honesty instead of convenience. I want to raise our children together, and maybe have more if you want that too. I want to wake up with you every morning and go to sleep beside you every night." He knelt on one knee, still holding her hand. "Jasmine Williams, will you marry me? For real this time, not for show or convenience, but because I love you and want to spend my life with you?" Tears filled Jasmine's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will." Maxwell slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and kissed her deeply. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "We're going to be late for the interview," Jasmine said, checking her watch. "Ellen can wait 10 more minutes," Maxwell replied, pulling her close again. The interview went better than they expected, Ellen was respectful of their privacy while still asking substantive questions. They spoke honestly about their complicated journey from employer-employee to co-parents to engaged couple. Looking back on everything that happened, Ellen asked, "What have you learned?" Maxwell and Jasmine exchanged glances before Jasmine answered. "We learned that honesty is more important than appearances," she said, "and that love doesn't require perfection." "What about you, Maxwell?" Ellen asked. "The business world knows you as a strategic thinker who plans everything carefully. Yet your personal life took such an unexpected turn." Maxwell smiled. "I learned that the best things in life can't be planned or controlled, and that true success isn't measured by stock prices or business deals, but by the people who love you enough to tell you the truth, even when it hurts." 4 months later, they moved into their new Connecticut home. The house was spacious but not extravagant, set on 3 acres with plenty of room for the twins to play, and yes, for the puppy they had adopted, a golden retriever named Sunny. Maxwell established the Reynolds Family Foundation with Jasmine as co-director. The foundation focused on supporting single parents and children in need, providing educational opportunities and healthcare assistance. Jasmine excelled in her business program, earning an award for her case study on ethical corporate management. Her professors often commented on her exceptional organizational skills and natural leadership abilities. Their wedding took place in June, exactly 1 year after the disastrous almost wedding at St. Patrick's Cathedral. This time, the venue was Jasmine's sister Tanya's backyard in Philadelphia. 30 guests attended, just family and close friends. No celebrities, no business connections, no press. The twins took their roles as flower girl and ring bearer very seriously, walking carefully down the makeshift aisle in matching outfits. Emma scattered rose petals with precise concentration, while Ethan guarded the ring pillow as if it contained treasure. Linda served as Jasmine's maid of honor, while David stood beside Maxwell as best man. Tanya's husband, a minister, officiated the ceremony. "Today we celebrate not just the beginning of a marriage," he said, "but the continuation of a journey that has already seen its share of challenges and triumphs." Maxwell and Jasmine wrote their own vows, including promises not just to each other but to their children. "I promise to be honest even when it's difficult," Maxwell said, "to value substance over status, and to remember that love doesn't require perfection." "I promise to be your partner in all things," Jasmine responded. "To support your dreams as you support mine, and to always find my way back to you no matter what challenges we face." As the small gathering applauded their first kiss as husband and wife, Emma tugged on Maxwell's pant leg. "Are we a forever family now?" she asked. Maxwell lifted her up, bringing her between himself and Jasmine. "Yes, sweet girl. We're a forever family." 1 year later, the family welcomed Olivia Grace Reynolds, a tiny sister for the twins. As Jasmine held the newborn in the hospital room, with Maxwell and the twins gathered around, she marveled at how far they had come. "She has your eyes," Maxwell said, gently touching Olivia's tiny hand. "And your chin," Jasmine replied with a smile. Emma and Ethan peered curiously at their new sister, full of questions and excitement about being the big kids now. In their home office, among family photographs and children's artwork, stood a framed news article about their journey. The headline read, "From wedding scandal to modern family, the Reynolds find truth after the altar." Sometimes when the children were asleep and the house was quiet, Maxwell and Jasmine would sit on their porch swing, watching fireflies in the summer or falling leaves in autumn. These quiet moments, built on honesty rather than performance, held more joy than either had thought possible. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" Jasmine asked one evening as Maxwell read a bedtime story to all 3 children. Maxwell looked around at their home, not a mansion or a showplace, but a true family home filled with laughter and occasional chaos. "No," he admitted with a smile. "This is better than anything I could have planned." If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.